My name is Shweta Khanna, and I represent an organization called BeSingular. The main focus of BeSingular is to create transformative learning experiences for Gen Z, and we work intensively with K-12 segment in the space of immersive technologies. I welcome you to this session, which is addressing a very pertinent issue of STEM. We all hear that word going around. It's become very, very jargonized, but the purpose is to try and understand that we have on this panel very esteemed members from industry and from higher education space. How schools, higher education, and industry can co-create to address the challenges and opportunities within STEM. And as school counselors, as educators, as people from that space, how do we break that down? Because we all understand that an imminent need for the future is going to be STEM. It's going to be the underlying substratum of everything that we do. And there are a lot of myths, a lot of issues associated around STEM. So I would like to just introduce my panelists and then we start with the particular session. So we have with us Mr. Sanjay Padode. He is a BITS Pilani alumnus, a visionary person who has been a serial entrepreneur, has set up very high cadre higher education institutions. We are very happy to have you here with us, Sanjay sir. We also have with us, yes, a louder round of applause. You guys had breakfast, right? We also have with us Mr. Nitesh Jain, who represents industry here, specifically a Harvard Business School alumnus representing automotive engineering and future factory, defense, verticals, and education, which comes as a passion to an industry person, and more than 30 plus years of experience in the entire industry space, has some very deep insights about what real education should be like. And we would be very happy to have lots of questions from you so that this can be a much more directed session and the outcomes can be much more visible and relatable to each one of you. So I would like to ask you to be in two groups, the rightist and the leftist, so as to say, and let's quickly brainstorm and talk about what are the opportunities and what are the challenges that you see with STEM as a space that exists. So we all understand, fine, what exactly is the STEM space. Are there certain opportunities and are there certain challenges? So just to get the morning session jogging a bit, you can move around for 2 minutes, discuss with each other, and then let's do what is called an idea blitz to say, what are the 5 or 7 opportunities that you see? And what are the 5, 7 challenges that you see with STEM education? And then we'll throw it open to our panelists. All right. So 3 minutes to say a hello to each other, get into a collaborative space, and come up with 5 to 7 ideas. Opportunities and challenges. Yeah, arts. Come join in here. We have less people on the challenges, right? Yeah. Bang on. So the engineering mindset dominates, right? And that's what the perception is. Perfect. All right. Interesting. So I see early morning, all the brains ticking away, and I think we have the whole conversation going. So seems to be a supercharged group. Very, very quickly, can we have any one person from this side share a list of ideas that you did? Before we do that, I'll reiterate for the new ones who've come in. What we're trying to achieve in this session is look at the STEM education scenario in terms of constraints and possibilities. We then move on to the industry lens to say, what are the emerging careers? What are the demand skill gaps? We look at the university perspective, higher education, what schools, universities, counselors, and industry can co-create, and thereby we create a roadmap to 21st century future-ready learners. That is the whole objective, which we try to break down into 4 parts. So coming to the first one, what is the summary of your discussion very, very quickly in terms of 3-4 points? You were doing the opportunities? Yeah. Rita ma'am?
Yeah. We've seen the NEP bringing in interdisciplinary learning. So apart from the conventional STEM careers, we also have interdisciplinary STEAM careers. So that's one opportunity which is being adopted at the university level, and I'm sure it will then slowly boil down to the schools as well. We also saw that there's a lot of emphasis on skill building within the school education or high school education as well, which opens up their mind to, apart from the subjects that they do study at school, but also how to convert their learning into skills. We also were talking about a lot of collaboration with industry, and I see definitely many schools encouraging their students to go for internships. So knowing about how, again, whatever you are learning and how probably it's leading to uh, entrepreneurship, startups, and younger children doing it, where technology definitely comes into play. So it's not about whichever part of learning that you are in, but technology has really become a part of, so which itself leads towards STEM as well as. So there are many such opportunities which are bringing in more.
I'd like to add one more thing. So just before 2 days, our school children went for a World Robotic Olympiad competition, and they had cracked first position there. And it was integrated with the concept of, yeah, thank you. It was integrated with the concept of SDGs, where they took up life underwater. And they came up with lovely solutions, and they have really made a robot, and that got prototyped and that got executed, and hence they won the position. So this shows that how these, Lego kits and the STEAM programs are taking up the children. And we are so happy that we couldn't get all such opportunities, and our children are getting exposed to these things.
So what I would come to you, but what we are essentially saying is that the space has kind of opened up. And if you talk about it, possibilities and opportunities, they are immense, because change is the only constant. And you would have to be very, very I say ostrich-like to not recognize that STEM is the future and there is no escaping the possibilities of that future. We all have an emphasis on skilled workforce. And when I talk about skill, I think nobody better than educators will understand the difference between, what we talk about knowledge and a theoretical, conceptual knowledge base, and compare that with skill, where we talk of the 4 C's: collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and being extremely receptive to the 4 R's of communication, right? So you have to have skill sets, you have to have habits, you have to have the right attitude, the right mindset shift. Otherwise, knowledge remains in the books, knowledge remains in the head. It will not translate into action and visible outcomes. We are talking about being in a global world. The competitiveness is so huge. If we do not focus on the right areas, how are we going to kind of move ahead? Innovation, entrepreneurship, all these words came through, and we recognize that there is an immense desire and an understanding, even in industry, to say that, at the end of 12, 13, 15 years of education, the workforce that's coming out is not really the ready in the sense that industry wants it to be. So from industry readiness, future of work readiness perspective, it's very important to have collaboration. It's important to solve global grand challenges. You said that UN SDGs, we talk about it. Let it not be just a notional thought to have a celebration, but it becomes a daily practice, and it becomes inculcated as a routine in our heads, so deeply ingrained that the awareness about planet Earth and about the environment and the entire cosmos is it's like a rooting in your very own culture to say that important to address the global challenges. And digital transformation, I will leave it to the stalwarts to talk about. But these are, yes, the opportunities that we are looking at. And we need to go back and say how 3 particular important stakeholders, the schools, the universities, and the industry, need to co-create on that. Challenges.
Discussed a lot of challenges. I'll just share the ones that I can remember. One thing is every fish is forced to climb a wall. That is not going to happen. How do you differentiate the kids that have the aptitude to get into STEM, and where do you draw the line to push them? That's a difficult challenge. And another thing is, sorry. Yeah, when we talk about robotics and kids of grade 8 building some robot to test the humidity in soil or something like that, where do you draw the fine line where you are focused on their fundamental understanding and the black box working? To them, the sensor is a black box. Now, and that's very rewarding because they'll be called on stages and it'll be advertised widely by the schools also, because that seems very interesting. But at what cost? Because I come from a perspective of a physics teacher. To me, that means nothing because you just plug these wires and something comes out. What happened there?
Yeah.
Because in the long run, if they don't understand the fundamental working of that, they won't be able to innovate. They'll be able to meme it.
Right.
See something that's one thing, and I think you can add something.
Also, STEM mostly in India is considered as engineering. We can't think beyond engineering. That's a challenge. So children now want to move out to do AI, machine learning, but that kind of opportunity needs to be available here, and they have to be guided well right from the beginning, so they don't step into zones that they're not sure of.
Sure. And I did hear a buzz here to say that moving from STEM to STEAM. So the whole objective is that it should not be career agnostic. It should be career agnostic. It should be subject agnostic, grade agnostic, to say that this is something which is critical, like your English and your maths, which everyone, irrespective of what you are going to be doing, needs to follow through. I've just put down a few challenges to say that a lot of students find the concept of STEM uninteresting, or feel that a lack of engagement to say that, okay, this is not for me, right? So from a career counselor's perspective, from an educator's perspective, how do you ignite that spark of engagement where a student, like we have maths phobia, similarly, there might be a STEM phobia that might be existing, and we need to address that. A lot of girls feel that, I am more creative, I am more of the arts and humanities and commerce, and engineering is not for me. And we are extremely low in terms of the gender representation in STEM. So that's a challenge. Quality STEM teachers are not available. So you have, like you mentioned, that there might be kits and there might be recognition, but what is the content of a STEM program? What is it that you are doing in terms of events? What is the outcome that's coming out of it? The facilitator will be the intermediary to ensure that a quality STEM program is delivered and individualized and curated to each kid in the classroom. So that is something which we need to focus upon. And of course, the curriculum is extremely outdated. And I will not take names to say that CBSE or IB or CIE, but you're teaching something to a ninth grader who knows that from the time that they were in sixth grade or fifth grade. So what kind of interest are we talking of sparking through that kind of a curriculum? So thank you so much for that. I think the first part of it is very clear and we are all on the same page. Wouldn't want to miss out on the opportunity of two such wise people here with us, and you all sparing the time early in the morning. So my first question, we're going to keep this in more of a question answer format. I have a few questions which I want them to answer, and then we open it out to you so that it becomes a more of a didactic dialogue rather than a one-way communication. My question to you, Mr. Nitesh Jain, sir, is that as an industry person, what do you see as the main challenges that we talked about and the main opportunities that we talked about? And what are the industry expectations in terms of STEM? And what schools should be looking at, or what higher education should be looking at?
So first of all, good morning to everyone. I'll split this question into two portions. One is what is that the education system needs to do, and what is that industry is looking at, right? I heard the opportunities and the challenges which are there. So let me first address the opportunities bit. Just these few 6 or 7 technologies are going to rupture the way we are even living. I don't know how much understanding the kids have, because whoever is in school today cannot even understand and perceive what impact on their growing up, living, and existence would mean. So like $4.5–5 trillion opportunities in front of us in robotics, AI, machine learning, manufacturing, digital transformation, 3D printing, you name it. And these are not for science students, because anybody in a fashion design industry would be weaving something with a 3D printed ink. It's happening already. And therefore, somebody, in schools, if there's a 3D printing, most of the people say it's not for me, it's for somebody else. But look at the young women who want to be in fashion industry. If they're not inclusive in this whole discussion, they would lose the meaning of it. And they will realize it when they go for looking for jobs. So this is a huge, so opportunity wise, massive opportunities are coming forth. There is no dearth of the areas which are not going to be disrupted. So that's one bit. Now, I don't know which school your kids are from, right? Who have great. So, they created a robot. I've been to many of these robotic so-called competitions, and apart from few, it's dismal what I go and see there, because the teacher is under pressure. उसको सब जोड़ जाड़ के बना दो, वहाँ चलना चाहिए भाई, ठीक है? नहीं चला तो उसकी क्लास लग जाएगी. This is not the way we're gonna make thinkers and evolvers in our country. It has to be deep dive. So while opportunities are there, we have to understand how these opportunities have to be harnessed. So the first question which I feel as industry is, are the educators educated enough to even educate? If that is not going to happen, we will have a churn of people, and the funnel is filling up. We have more and more. We're the most populous country now. Nobody is stopping our child growth anyway. So we'll have more people, but then who is there to serve the industry? So when we look from industry standpoint, there are 3 circles: education, industry, consumer. I feel industry is very close to consumer. We look at them every single day, we innovate, we disrupt what we are doing, go back to our labs, create something else so that the customer is satisfied. I see a big disconnect between education and consumer, right? So that's a big problem in this nation. Therefore, while opportunities exist, if we don't address this moot question, it's going to be a big problem. That's how I see it. And the second question was what? What was that?
What are the industry trends and what are the
Right.
expectations in terms of
Right.
demand supply?
So trends certainly are towards new age technologies, which are going to be integrated into the society much more deeper than they have been. So that's something which is very, very critical. The question will be, like somebody also mentioned from physics, he's a physics teacher, and he mentioned, the point is that how do we make the student realize that in the end, they are going to be becoming entrepreneurs, they're going to do a startup, they're going to be in jobs. Do they link the ideas to the consumer and how the world will look at the products? So this is something which is extremely critical from my standpoint. And I can keep talking, but I would like Sanjay bhai to add something here.
Sure. So as a university founder, what are your views that how do we strengthen the linkages between school education, higher education, and industry? And how does Vijaybhoomi University specifically partner with, say, organizations like BeSingular to co-create the industry academia synergy?
Okay, so before I answer that question, I would like to actually go back into history and talk about the genesis of STEM, because STEM was created by the United States of America as a word. And that was for basically getting the best talent from the world in the area of science, technology, engineering, and math. Okay. And they offered that if you had a STEM degree from a US university, you would automatically qualify for an OPT, which is a 3-year work visa in the United States. And that's how the whole journey of STEM began. And as we speak now, every degree in the US is getting aligned to STEM because they need people from India and China to come to the US to run the universities. And that is the reality. So I've been to universities abroad, and even a financial accounting degree has been qualified as STEM. And how it has been qualified as STEM is because they put a course called business analytics and data science. So the moment you add these two streams into any degree, it qualifies it to the STEM space. And that's what is happening. So you might just see a degree in the area of biomedical engineering. I mean, say biosciences, forget medical engineering, biosciences, which will also become a kind of a STEM program because of analytics. Now, what's happening in the space is that data has become, the cliche is the new oil, but reality is data, the volume of data that we are generating, whether it be through our actions, whether it be through our social media, whether it be through our devices, whatever, is really creating the opportunity and the differentiation for various companies to position themselves. And the students are required to have the competency to see the patterns in data. Now, even STEM is in music. Let me tell you how. So if you went to Berklee School of Music in the past, the eligibility criteria for you was to play an instrument. You had to know how to play an instrument, whether a flute or a saxophone or a guitar or whatever. Today, they have included a laptop as an instrument. So what I can do is, earlier I needed the skill to play the guitar. Okay, today I need to understand the music and express music in a musical language to a laptop which can generate music. So I don't need the skill anymore, but I need to understand the fundamental of how this whole thing is panning out. Now, coming to the question, which is basically talking about integration with the industry. The industry is moving towards competency-based hiring. And we are yet delivering functional knowledge as far as academics is concerned. Nobody is mapping what the competency is required. And if you look at the World Economic Forum and the future of work skills, the 10 skills that they're talking about, one was in, I think, 2019, and the latest has been released this year. All 10 skills are soft skills. None of them is a hard skill. Nobody is saying that the student has to be a science guy or a tech guy or a finance guy. They're all saying that he should be a problem solver. He should be a team worker. He should be a great negotiator. He should be a great thinker. And when Nitesh bhai said that, talk about think and evolve, That is where the focus is. So competencies are about how you can analyze a problem, how you can frame a problem, how you can synthesize knowledge and information to create a solution. Actually, those skills are completely lacking in our curriculum. And I'll give you one real example coming from my life story. Okay, so when I graduated from BITS Pilani, I could take any 3 digits and multiply with any 3 digits in a fraction of a second. Now, having come down like 27, 28 years down, I can't even probably do 2 digits into 2 digits now because I'm so used to a calculator. But that's how I was trained in school. Our children can't do it even at the age of 10th or 12th, which is the sad part. So they have lost their ability to compute. How many students are focusing on memory? They're not. And we think memorization is bad. But let me tell you, memorization is the raw material for thought. If you don't remember what is anchored in your, how do you start? What is the catalyst for the thought process? And the last thing is comprehension capability. So I feel that a lot of the core competencies which are required in the soft skill, which the corporate wants, is very much embedded into the necessities of the past, which have become the luxuries of today. So I'll give you a classic example. You go to a corporate boardroom and you're having this corporate meeting, okay? And the chairperson of the meeting says, okay, what is the market share of this? I think it is 20% of X value. Everybody goes to the calculator except one smart guy who just gives them the number. Definitely he's going to attract the attention. He said, wow, this guy's smart. Then the next skill is memory. He said, okay, what is it? Which branch of our office was doing this? It comes prompt. Everybody else is Google searching. He's doing it fast. The ability to express and fearlessly expression. These are the key competencies that are required in the corporate today. Everything else is given and understood. That doesn't mean he doesn't need to know science. That doesn't mean he does not need to know technology. He does not need to know engineering. All that is part. But in this competitive world, this is the edge. And coming from competencies, I think most of the institutions are lacking that bridge. Now the bridge, like so it's between the company and the university, or the recruiter and the university, the final hire and the university. And the bigger gap is between the university and the schools and the colleges. Because schools are delivering to the curriculum defined by the boards. Those board curriculums are made for a very large generic set. So I don't blame the people who are creating curriculums. We need to meet our numbers of GER, gross enrollment ratios, and everything. That there is a metric by way of which countries' literacy is measured, education is measured. So they have their challenges. They can't actually make their curriculum for the elitist. It has to be inclusive. So they have to look at a very broad base and create the curriculum. But here is the place where the school has to play the role. Keeping the curriculum aside, they need to understand that this skill is very important, where the school has to interface with the university to understand what is the requirement of the company. So the entire continuum, right from school up till graduation and up till employment, has to be fixed, and that path has to be actually joined. And that job is of the teachers. It's not a curriculum fault. It's how you take teaching into class. For example, yesterday we all celebrated Chandrayaan-3. Now that's a fantastic, I mean, if you were to go into class and say, okay, what is the success of Chandrayaan? Is it astrophysics? Is it robotics? Is it AI? Is it computer imaging? Is it teamwork? Is it collaboration? What is it? And if you do a debate in class, you are going to start creating the love for STEM, because it's all of everything that I said. Without all of this, that mission wouldn't have been possible. So that's what the main thing is, the competency and coming back to school.
Wonderful.
Yeah, just want to add a few things here. Great point, Sanjay bhai. So, just to throw some numbers at you. And as you mentioned, United States National Science Foundation created this acronym STEM. There was a purpose behind why they did that, which he already explained. Now, then somebody said STEAM, somebody will say streams, adding social angle to it, and somebody will say SCREAM. What the hell is going on here, right? So these acronyms have no meaning, by the way, and we have to just look at what exactly is needed for the consumer. I will keep repeating this again and again. he mentioned that school ecosystem has to evolve and look at that. So my personal feeling is that education still is far away from consumer. That's the basic underlying fact. If we don't set the baseline of this nation, that this is what you need to know, and that has to be, the soft skill and the hard skills and the competencies, we are going to be lagging behind. Right? We're talking a $5 trillion economy in India. We are looking at our young learners actually going out and representing best of companies. We have a huge potential, but the basic problem is, how are we harnessing that potential? Do we exert enough as a school? Do we exert enough as a university to do beyond what is a basic curriculum and passing the kids out? Right? So I can give a live example. I mean, if in our companies, we innovate on products, there's a baseline product. You go to a customer and say, guys, this is what I made, when we can sell it out. Then there is a huge, data collection which happens. How my consumer is actually going to use that product. Pick up small points, get it back to lab, talk to engineering people, talk to the product designers, talk to the other guys, and say how I can up the ante. And therefore, then like 3 layers of innovation happens, and then something else comes, and the consumer says, oh, wow, this is a new evolution. I like it. And then again, the routine starts. Is this routine, is this rigor in the institutions to not do just basic, but say, I'm going to exert. And as educators, are we exerting enough to create that edge? So CBSE, IB, et cetera, will have a baseline curriculum, which he mentioned, it's for the masses. But if we want to excel, and if you want to make a differentiator, I think that is going to be very, very critical.
Wonderful. So a lot of points have been thrown out, and if I were to in crux summarize, you say that STEM, STEAM, whatever terminology you want to use, but the underlying is that the emphasis has to be on competencies and skills versus theoretical knowledge. And we are not by any standard saying that that is not required. It is the essential dal roti on your plate, and what we considered as the salad and the raita and the dessert is also becoming mainstream, right? So to have a comprehensive persona which can be globally competitive and which can have the right skill set to have a solutioning mindset, it will become an integrated part of the educational curriculum that you transact in your schools. And the foundation is the school level, right? So if the base is not set right, how are we going to construct a high-rise building on a faulty base? So some very critical points, a lot of good data sharing, and I specifically like the fact that both industry and university, higher education, school ecosystem seem to resonate with each other in terms of what is the requirement. We now need to kind of deliberate on what is the roadmap to get ahead and achieve that objective. So my next question very quickly to both of you is that, how do you see that collaboration happening between industry, universities and the school ecosystem? What kind of steps should schools be taking, counselors be taking? What kind of measures will make that journey more achievable?
Can I ask a question to everyone? How many are counselors here? How many of you have ever been to industry and interacted? So few of you have, and few probably have not been there, right? So key point is going to be from my side, as Shweta said, what is number one priority? As I said, look at your consumer. We are your consumer, industry, not the students, not the parents. They are only giving money as they are like an avenue for you to have some revenue in your school, but you are preparing those kids for us. If I do not get a satisfaction that the pipeline is going to help me build my business better and make and contribute to this nation's growth, sorry, we have not done a good job here, right? So this is the main problem. I think the number one factor should be extensive collaboration. We should be inviting schools. There should be ecosystem around, get counselors, spend a few days with us, and keep moving around, because you have to have the ears on the ground. So that's, to me, one of the biggest factors. And then we can have, you can throw problems at us. You can have the kids with us for 2 weeks, let them solve it. We can provide you some rooms for hackathons. There are a lot of ways how we can collaborate. So this is something which will really, really enrich the entire learning journey. So these are 2-3 main points. I will leave Sanjay bhai to add few.
So we are, all of us know that we are part of this VUCA ecosystem, okay, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. What it really means is if I go to industry and ask, can you predict in the next 5 years what's going to happen? I don't think the industry has the right answer. Nobody has the right answer. Second thing is, imagine the educators like yourselves and us. We are preparing the student for the next 80 years of his life. So the young guys are going to live 100 years, unlike probably my age, which will probably go at 80, 90, they're going to live 100 plus. So they have got 80 years and your learning is going to last them 80 years, but you don't know what to teach them. Classic problem, right? Now, how do you solve that? When you go to industry and you suddenly realize what are the core parameters on which the industry is going to be forecasting or laying the stone for the future employees. It's very, very the core skills. It's going to be about imagination. It's about sustainability. Because at the end of the day, sustainability affects everybody. We are 800 crores on Earth, okay? And Earth is becoming a smaller place to live in. So we are, landing on the moon, we are setting up space stations, we are finding places for ourselves. And we are consuming at a rate which is far faster than what the Earth can produce. And the third is the social responsibility aspect, because we are becoming crowded. So obviously the space is becoming less. So we are tending to step on each other's toe quite a bit here and there. And, there's a lot of tolerance which is required within all of us. When you are living miles away, it didn't matter. I bumped into a guy once in 2 days. Here I'm bumping into people practically every second. Look at this conference. We are rubbing shoulders. We don't have enough space to, spread out and sit. So that's the kind of situation we are in. And so these three things are very important. And all these three things have to be developed inside our student from the beginning. Imagination is going to be by far the most powerful thing that you need to develop, which we have killed. The education system is responsible for killing over the last 100 odd years since, or probably more, maybe 200 years, from the time the industrial revolution really picked up. Okay, so there we went into silos, telling people division of labor, you become an expert, everything. Now everything is about convergence. You look at robotics. Is it electrical? Is it mechanical? Is it submerged? Is it, oceanic engineering? What is it? I mean, to create a robot that goes under the ocean, you need to have knowledge from every space. So everything is becoming very, very muddled. So you need to basically first focus on building the core of the student. Why? Because of this volatility. If today it's Python, tomorrow it's Cobra, after that it's going to be Viper. Okay. And if the guy is going to be learning Python and by the time he graduates, he realizes now he's going to be bitten by Cobra, then he's going to feel Python can't be the core. And let me tell you, we are all talking about AI and machine learning. This is equivalent to when in 1992, we were talking about the the relational database management system, the RDBMS. Today, that is IT infrastructure. 2 years down the line, that's my prediction, AI will be IT infrastructure. It will be commonplace. AI will be there everywhere. And AI has got so many huge applications where, as teachers, I really sympathize with you and with my teachers as well. What do you teach in this space? It is so large. I think you got to focus on the core competency. When I say competency, there's a difference between competency and skill. Okay, skill is very directed. I want skill of coding, I want skill of whatever. Competency is the inherent ability to adapt, to problem solve, to analyze, to synthesize, to critically think. All these are competencies that you need to start generating in school. And that is the fundamental core. If you work on, I think if all of us jointly work on, and that becomes the core of how we admit students and how you bring up your students and then how we graduate students, I think we will probably be somewhere nearer the solution. May not be the solution, but somewhere nearer the solution.
Fantastic. I think beautifully summarized. And I would like to now throw it open to the audience to ask questions, which I'm sure there's lots of questions floating around with such a thought-provoking session, and the Python and the Cobra and the Viper was phenomenally creative and imaginative. So hats off to you. But yes, I agree that 85% of the jobs that will be existing in the next 5 years are nowhere on the radar also right now. So how do we make our students future ready when the future is always a combination of more the unknown rather than the known? So questions, everyone, and feel free to ask. Yes.
Morning, everyone. Sir, as you talked about competencies and skills, so what is the best way to identify the competencies amongst the children and develop them? As teachers, what can we do? I mean, how can
Okay, so first look at all the soft competencies of the students. Don't worry about the hard competencies at all. Okay, all these buzzwords which are there of tech will change. They're not going to be there forever. But what's going to be there is the student's ability. Okay, so one of the first, so if you look at Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence model, okay, which has got 8 multiple intelligences, and probably there's going to be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 to be added. Okay, so those 8 multiple intelligences are the core competencies. So if a student has got a musical intelligence, you might just think that that person can just perform music. No, I don't think. He's got an uncanny ability to understand patterns, because music is about patterns. And if you look at data is about patterns. So a musician can be a great data analyst. Now, how do you basically recognize that in your class and how you associate it with the profession is what, like Nitish Bhai said, you need to go to the industry and ask, what is the industry looking at? Now, if data patterns is somebody looking at, and then you can see that I can look at this musical intelligence, put it together, that's fantastic. Now, let's look at the service industry. We all think physical intelligence is about, being Usain Bolt or Michael Phelps. No, imagine a person like a surgeon who has to stand 12 hours for a surgery, or a receptionist in a hotel who cannot sit, or a teacher who's teaching like 4 sessions in a, they all need physical ability and stamina to perform. Or the engineer who goes on site or lands up in moon, they have to be trained as astronauts. So all of that requires the physical ability. So your physical self is also very, very important. We all ignore all of this. Now, I'll give you another example. Okay, again, back to the corporate boardroom. You have a very smart person whose personality is good, physically attractive. He has or she has definitely an advantage over the others. Now, why is it that we don't advocate that in school? Why don't we say that maintaining a personality is very good? And personality is something which is a habit. Like when we walk out of our rooms, we actually see the mirror. Okay, that's a habit. And you need to build that habit. If you don't spend 1 hour out of 24 hours every day on yourself, I think you're doing injustice to the best thing that's been endowed by God onto you. And that has to be inculcated right in school. So these are some things, like I'll just tell you some part about Vijaybhoomi. So we have architected our curriculum into 4 parts. One is personality enhancement. Second is knowledge, which is the functional knowledge that one gets. Third is practice courses, application of knowledge in reality. So create opportunities within our curriculum, which may not be the board curriculum, but create, like we have, for instance, in our curriculum, every student, irrespective from any stream, they have to do a research incubation project. They have to do a social immersion program. They have to do a long tenure internship. So these 3 things are mandatory, whether you're from law or whatever stream, you have to do it, because that gives you an opportunity to apply what you have learned and put something on the resume, which is worth talking about. Every resume says, I've done master, I've learned these subjects, that's about it. How do you differentiate the resume from the others? I have done this physically, or I made the robot, for example. Oh, so what kind of robot? What did you learn? I mean, you really switch the context to what you know rather to what the interview knows. So a lot of things like that. So that's the third part. And the fourth part is career winning, which is about what career, building an individual development plan, trying to say that what courses do I take, what projects do I do, what internships do I do to eventually land up my align with my aspiration. So these are the 4 pillars on which our curriculum is done. And this career services, which we call the Center for Continuous Learning and Employability, this center works with the industry every day. Industry, the biggest challenge with industry and academics is the academics does not speak the language of the industry. It's not that the academics does not know what the industry wants. It's just that we don't speak the language of the industry, and we need to start speaking the language of the industry. If we start doing that, I think the connection will happen.
So Sanjay bhai, why does this not happen? Because the school has an influx of students. They will pay money. Promoters will make money. Management is happy. That's about it. The day the consumer or us as industry who's a customer says, I don't want this, this is in for a big disruption. And that's when the reality hits that, what are we even doing with our products or services? And that's when you start really looking inwards. So before this happens, it's critical for academia to understand what they are actually doing. And I'm sorry, this is not the case in India, at least in this nation I've seen. So this is a big problem. I mean, German education system with all the plus and minus, they create people who are fit. You hire a guy or a woman, they'll be able to start doing the job. Here, I have to invest 2 to 3 weeks in a dojo created by my HR to even get people to understand basics. A guy graduating with a mechanical degree does not know the density of steel. I mean, what were you doing for 5 years? And this is like taught in our own dojos. We have to invest huge amount of resources. Now look at the national resource being wasted by industry just to make people learn something so that they can perform. That resource can be used in our nation building in some other ways, but it is not happening. So this is something which I would just keep reiterating that, what he said, talk to us, understand what's going on, send the counselors and teachers, have their IDPs that you have to go and work in industry for a month. Why we are not doing it? I mean, look, you go to school and go back home, but your own enhancement will happen tremendously if this interaction actually starts. So this is what I would also like to add.
Just to answer your question, one of the key reasons, and this is a very brutal and honest answer, okay? One of the key reasons why we don't talk to the industry, but because we are very comfortable in our academic zone. We call ourselves academics and say we are different. So we have created a Brahminical society where we have created a caste for ourselves. And we say we don't speak their language because their language is money. Our language is knowledge. And we have kept this gap. But the reality is that money is made on knowledge. And that's where the connection needs to come. We need to start speaking the language. And their language is of efficiencies, their language is of productivity, their language is of enhancing the growth of the economy. So that language has to eventually translate into applications which need to translate into knowledge. And that whole process, if we map, I think our students will find the purpose why they're learning. Like I'll give you a classic example, okay? I love geography, but I hated maths. But I love geography so much, it took me to a point of time where I needed math. So that got me to learn math. And then I enjoyed math. So it's just a matter of I need to know why I'm learning it rather than just learning. If I can do that, I think we have fixed the problem.
So very important harmonizing principle, which is missing between the sub ecosystems, which needs to be reestablished. And also you raise this, and I think we are all very much in our comfort zones as well, to say that, why should I go that extra mile, or why should I try to find out more? So if that curiosity is not there in educators, how do we hope to inculcate that in students? And it's not that we are lazy people, slothful people, and good work is not happening. Tremendous good work is happening, but it's all happening in silos. And what's required is the need to interconnect the dots and make sure that it's a more connected, collaborative world. You had a question at the back. Yes, please.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for such wonderful perspectives and bringing the truth out and in open. My question is, so we are talking about the school, the teachers, the educators, and the industry. However, in India, one major role is played by parents. And I say this from my experience in classroom. If I try to teach core competencies, like whatever you do, you should be passionate about it. You should love what you are doing. Or if I ask my students, why don't you take part in science exhibition? The answer usually is, nahi ma'am, NEET dena hai, IIT JEE deni hai, and these will not help me to score in NEET and in JEE exams. I have even heard students telling, ma'am, if I tell my parents you're kind of like asking me to take part in this, they will stop me from coming to school. They'll like stay back home, go to your coaching, study there. So how do we educate or bring these parents into this loop where they need to understand? Unfortunately, most of these parents are corporate parents. They work in industry, but most of them have cleared their JEE, got into Microsoft or Amazon or Infosys or Wipro as mass recruiters. And they feel they are living a life of luxury, right? So,
sure. What she said, I would like to add one more note. In like simple class 10 student, you get him a simple project for fun and love. He asked me a simple question. Can I add this to my profile building when I go abroad? I said, no, but it is too ordinary, too simple. It's just for fun we are doing it. Then it's okay. I'm not so interested. So in fact, they become so focused on higher education. They're all out to make, and there are the kids who are, I'm going into social service, community service. But why? We know. Because deep down, they can't be decent to their own neighbor. But they are going for this. So the children have become very aware of their needs, in fact, but they're becoming too selfish and too petty in their resume building and profile building. How do we get that love back?
So my question is slightly different from that. My question is how to educate these parents in a way that they need to understand that the society is changing, the industry is changing, and the way they want their children to be educated has to be different from how they were educated.
So your question is more on the parent partnership and the parent advocacy piece. Yours is to say, how do you kind of, yes, the pressure of the peer group, the pressure of the parents, societal impacts the joy of learning is your
So
concern,
this trickles down to that at the end of the day.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm both the questions are the same answer according to me. All right, so let's ask ourselves, let me ask you guys a question. Who created the J? We, educators. Let's be honest. We created, so we need to change the metric by way of which we measure education. The government measures by GER. We measure by how many people have passed, what are the percentage, how many people have got placed, how many people have got. Now, let me put this entire thing with an analogy, okay? You go to a hospital. Hospital also has to do business. Hospital also has to do numbers. But no hospital says that I'm the best because I'm 1,000 crore hospital. They say that I'm the best because I've got the best surgeon in liver transplant. I've got the best surgeon in clinic. How many of us speak about the achievement of our students? Even this conference, we are talking about how many of our students are placed in top-notch universities. Big deal. I mean, what did they do with it? I'm saying we are spending $12 billion every year sending students to America and they're jobless. Students graduating from Stanford don't get a job 6 months when they're out. And they're spending like 2.4 crores for what? I think we are doing a much better job that I am giving him a engineering degree at 5 lakh, at least gets a salary of 5 lakh when he graduates. Okay, so from that perspective, I think, let the educators start talking about the children's success, identifying to parents, hey, you don't worry about JEE, he'll get there. Let him do what he has to do. I think, can we take that step and tell, like you go to a surgeon and the surgeon says, look, I can only spend 5 minutes with you because I have to do turnover. Now you won't want to go to that surgeon. So there is or you go to a pilot. He's not turning around numbers in the airline, though the airline is turning around numbers. The pilot says, I have to fly to Delhi only at that speed. I can't fly faster. I can't fly slower. Because if he does that, maybe he risks the plane. So the responsibility of the pilot is the safety of the passengers. The responsibility of the doctor is to get the patient live and kicking. The responsibility of the teacher is to unlock the potential of the learner. I think a metric should be learner success, not school success, not country success, and not this as a teacher. As a member of the school, you have to do numbers.
Yes, please. I think just one last question. We're running out of time. We would love to go on. Yes.
How is the industry hiring? Are you actually looking at the resumes and things that they do just as a tick in the box and finally expect that this is going to lead to a wonderful job opportunity for me? So that's a question for you.
So our number one matrix is, please tell us how many projects you've done. हाथ से क्या काम किया ये बताओ, अंग्रेजी मत बोलो. सारे रिज्यूमे स्कोप्ड होते हैं जो हमारे पास आते हैं, सब कॉपी पेस्टेड है. अब ये चैट जीपीटी और आ गया है, वो और ऐड कर रहा है वर्ड्स. सो हमारे लिए तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है भाई, आप ये बताओ आपने किया क्या है. एक्सप्लेन इन सिंपल हिंदी लैंग्वेज. ट्रस्ट मी, एट एनी लेवल, CEO, vice presidents, whichever level you may talk, at least I'm telling you, our culture in our organizations is अंग्रेजी छोड़ के हिंदी में बात करो भाई. Because people just play with words and try to fool you around. Doesn't make any sense. We ask pertinent questions, and if they can tell us exactly what they did, they will get hired. He may be from a GB Pant Institute in Delhi or a Pusa Institute or wherever, or a IIT, doesn't matter. In the end, what does he know or what does she know? That's critical for us. So this is our matrix. And as I speak, when I talk to my CHROs and, they did tell that they're in that ecosystem, they have realized that, they want the best hires. They don't want liabilities in the company where instead of 3 weeks of dojo, now 6 weeks of dojo starts. And then we don't want to be an education institution. We want to just do work and produce good products for our country and consumers. So this is what we look at. And therefore, what Sanjay Bhai said, instead of this big ticket things that you are a 95 percentile or a 75 percentile is fine. If he knows how to do the job, nobody will check his certificate, because in the end, what he's creating or she's creating matters for the industry and for the economy and for our country. So this is what we look at.
Just to add to it and to inform you, I'm sure you're aware, companies like Google, Microsoft are not looking at degrees anymore. They're basically asking you to just do tests. 7 rounds of tests before you get in, whether you're a 10 standard, 12 standard, whatever. You look at a company like Zoho, hiring people at the 12 standard, saying, I don't care for engineering. If you have got the ability to code, we'll teach you how to code, but come in after 12. So a lot is changing. People are looking at what you can do rather than what credential you have. And that is the core focus. I mean, that's where we have to shift and build, like I said, unlock the potential, focus on learner success, and that will change.
And why is this happening again? Coming back, because everybody is realizing, who is in industry, that whatever intake I will have from this funnel, they don't know enough. There's no point wasting your time. This is the basic question. We are not looking at university. I mean, we go for GET hiring. The first question is, go to a place where hunger is there. उन्होंने काम किया होगा भाई, वहां चले जाओ. Otherwise, you go to big institutes, we know what's happening there. Sorry, but that's the reality of life.
So I'll just give you one example to corroborate this, which I shared with Nitesh by yesterday. Okay. So this was as recent as 1 month back. And I'll tell you, so in Jagdish Seth School of Management, which is the business school, part of Vijaybhoomi University, as well as the founder of Vijaybhoomi University. So in that school, we had a batch starting, and we had average percentile of 75 percentile plus on the CAT, with 40% being engineers. So our director, Atish Chattopadhyay, he goes to first class. He's a marketing professor. And he says, okay, the entire class has to create an advertisement of 100 square centimeter selling themselves to me, because he wanted an intro to everybody. He said, come on, you guys make an ad. So one student got up and said, why 100 square centimeter? So he said, because that's how the advertisements are measured in the paper. And then for a moment, Atish just, turned around his head and said, okay, do you guys know what is 100 square centimeters in space? So, I mean, people said, 10 by 10 square centimeters, and they answered it correctly. He said, okay, let's do a simple exercise. I'm going to give markers to you. Come and draw 1 square centimeter on the board. So all the class came and drew 1 square centimeter. The minimum size was 30 square centimeters. with 40% being engineers. So the spatial sense is, because they're using screens, 1 kilometer also looks like this, 1 inch also looks like this, 1 centimeter also looks like this. They don't have the spatial sense. So Atish got back and told them, you're going to be the best consumers for real estate, because they'll sell you 1,000 square feet home, but you'll have actually got a 700 square feet.
Fantastic. So we're running out of time and unfortunately need to conclude a very interesting session early in the morning. I think lots of thoughts, lot of inspiration, lot of bias to action is what all of this points out to. So we have talked of the possibilities, we have talked of the constraints, we have talked of the co-creation of synergies between 3 subsystems of the educational ecosystem. Industry being the consumer and not the student or the parent being the fee-paying metrics consumer being the focus. So higher education, industry, school systems, if they co-create that space for the future generations to blossom, I think the demographic dividend is on our side. The right mindset is on our side. There's immense possibilities and opportunities, and together, let's try to create that impact. So thank you so much, Sanjay Padode sir.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Nitesh
Thank you.
Jain. And I would also like to thank IC3 movement for providing this opportunity for organizations like BeSingular, Vijaybhoomi University, the best group. So it's so interesting to see the 3 ecosystems converging under one roof. And we look forward to interacting with each of you, and all the best to each one of you. And thank you once again for taking out the time.